Today's video we'll be looking at my Sony professional video monitor, the model 24MU.
We review old technology from games to old PCs and don't forget the toys. Don't get ancient electronics. We cover it all.
Well, before we take a look at this monitor and the specifics about it, first I should probably talk about the monitor I actually traded this for. This was not a Christmas present or anything. I actually had a monitor that I traded for this one that some of you guys might actually think is a lot more unique, interesting, and cool than this actual monitor. But let me explain about that monitor and why I went ahead and did this trade. So this is the monitor I actually traded for. It is and forgive me if I can't pronounce this correctly, an Ikegami, and it is a TM3217. So this is a 32-inch widescreen Ikegami PVM professional monitor from 1997. It supports composite, S-video, component, and RGB. And the image on this thing was really good. And as far as I know, I'm the only one that actually had one of these monitors. I got this with a bunch of other PVMs probably 8 years ago at a college. The AV department was selling off their monitors, and I grabbed this thing for a song back then. But you might be wondering, why would I trade this thing away? It seems to be so exceedingly rare. It's really cool. I mean, a PVM 32-inch screen, widescreen. Did I trade down with this thing? Why? You may also notice I've had this monitor for about 8 years, give or take, and I've never done a video on it. And I've done plenty of videos on things like PVM. So what's the deal here? The thing is, this thing has been just sitting in my storage for 8 years because I have been unable to use it at all. It's just too big. I haven't had a place to put it in my setup at home, at the apartment. Even now that I have a bigger apartment and an actual computer room, there was no place to put it. It's just too big, and I would have had to sacrifice too much other things to set this thing up. I also don't really have a vehicle I can transport it in. I guess the hatchback, it might fit in the back if I fold the seats down, possibly. But even then I can't, it was too heavy for me to move around myself. Now, yes, I did move a KV310 by myself, and it took a whole day, and that was horrible. And this one's a little bit lighter than that TV set, but still it's miserable to move around by yourself. So it's just sat in my storage. It was the size and weight basically made it useless to me. So, in my opinion, yes, I traded this monitor. It was very unique. It's very cool. But I traded it for a monitor that I can actually use, something I could actually carry around myself, that I actually can put in my setup. It doesn't take up too much space. So, I guess I would rather have a smaller monitor that I could actually use than have this thing sit in storage. Now, when the guy came to look at it, and he hooked it up, and he was watching a game on it, I was having doubts. I was second guessing. I was like, ooh, should I keep this thing? Should I have figured out a way to put it in my setup? And I did have my doubts. But to be honest, if the guy didn't show up and we didn't do the trade, this thing would just be sitting in my storage unit for the next however long. And also keep in mind, there's also the repair issue. Now he claims he did find a service manual for this thing, but I wasn't able to find one. So the PVM, the Sony PVM, the 24MU, their service manuals and cap kits are readily available. This thing, repair, was also a little bit of an issue. So, that was another factor in it. So I'm happy with the trade. I'm glad this monitor is getting use. I'm glad he could get use out of it. And, I now have a monitor that I can actually use, and it's just not sitting in the storage unit. I would also point out, monetary-wise, I think this monitor was about the same amount of money of what I was asking for the Ikegami. Actually, this monitor probably goes for a little bit more. I don't really feel too bad. I know the Ikegami was very like kind of unique and stuff, but I had that monitor up for about 6 months, give or take. And although I had a ton of offers, I even had people from the Middle East giving me offers on it. It was just too big and heavy for me to transport, and I especially was not going to deal with shipping. So this monitor, being a 20-incher, it's just, I know I'm going to keep this monitor, but if I was in some kind of pinch where I had to sell it, I don't think it would take me 6 months to sell this guy, just because of the lower weight and size. I think it's a lot more palatable for people to this monitor. So I think I could probably sell this monitor very quickly, where the other monitor, it was just, it just, like I said, it just, because of the size and weight, I really had to wait to find a special buyer that was willing to buy it or trade for it. And even he had to drive 11 hours both ways to pick up that monitor. Something I wouldn't have done in my younger days, but man, these days I can hardly motivate myself to drive across town to pick up goodies. Alright, so let's talk about this monitor real quick. Again, this is the Sony 20M4U. Now, the previous monitor I was using was a 20M2MDU. So we'll talk about the differences a little bit and why I chose to go with this monitor. Now, I still have the 20U2MDU. It's in my storage unit right now. That's kind of a backup if something ever happens to this one. First of all, the bezel is darker. I don't know. The other one was more of a medical monitor. It had that beige bezel. I kind of like this darker bezel more. Other than that, it really looks the same. You have this one mono speaker here. Mostly the same controls. You know, you have composite, component, S-video, and what am I missing here? Composite, component, S-video, and RGB, obviously. You know, you have a menu. Like I said, I think it's mostly the same here. Aperture, brightness, chroma, phase, contrast, volume, power right there. There is this underscan button I've found useful. Some parts of this video you might see it activated just because I've kind of run into a couple games where it cuts off very slightly at the bottom. I could probably fix that with adjustments, but I do kind of like I can just hit the underscan and it just fills the screen. It just has this little black border around it. It still looks correct to me, just fine, but if I want to fill the whole screen, I can just hit that little overscan button there. And here we go now. As you can see right here, the label it's an HR Trinitron. Now I have one other HR Trinitron, and that's my 14L5. That one is what do they call it? Multi-scan or multi-resolution. It can do HD resolution. So it will do 480p, 720p, 1080i. This monitor is strictly 240p, 480i. So this is a standard definition monitor. But for standard definition, it is excellent. So comparatively, my old PVM, the 20M2MDU, it had a line count of 600. This one here has a line count of 800. So that's actually more in line with something higher end like a BVM. Now, I'm not going to go into the technicals. I'm not a super videophile, so I can't give you all the technical specifications of what TVL means. But it's basically sort of, I believe, horizontal resolution count. Basically, if your line count is higher, your picture is better as in sharper. So this one has 200 lines more than most standard PVMs, hence the HR high resolution marker right there. So that should result in a sharper image. The pixels are smaller, so you know, the color should be, I think the colors sort of blend less, something like that. But again, I don't know the technicals of it, but you do get a sharper picture with higher TV line count. Suppose also the scan lines are more defined. Some people don't like that. Most people do like it for retro gaming, but some people don't. Some people like softer images. So if you do prefer softer images, you're probably better off with just a consumer TV set. But as far as PVMs go, This is one of the higher end PVMs, and that's part of the reason why I did my trade and I wanted to pick up this monitor, just because of the high TVL count. There is a PVM that has 900 lines of resolution, and then of course you get your higher end BVMs that have even higher line counts, I believe. But this is, for a PVM, this is very high. That's the big reason this monitor is pretty desirable. Now, mine is missing a logo right here, but I have ordered a new logo off eBay. That doesn't really affect the set at all, but again, remember, you're looking at this through compression, like YouTube compression, and you know, I'm filming off a screen, but I can tell you in person, this looks excellent.
Excellent.
So how does this monitor compare to the one I previously was using, the 20MDU? And I can tell that it's sharper. It's not as sharp as my 14L5, but that is a 14-inch monitor. Generally, smaller monitors are just going to be sharper by nature. But I can tell this is definitely a sharper monitor than the 20MDU. It is sharper, but I wouldn't say it's such a huge difference that you should go out and spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars if you already have a PVM that's maybe a 600 line PVM. I don't know. I don't think the jump in quality is that different. You can notice it, especially if you're into CRTs and all that stuff, but I don't think it's not as big as a jump from, say, using RF or composite to like S-video, where it's like, oh, that looks a lot cleaner and sharper. It's not quite that big of a jump. Again, it's not worth $500 or $600 in my opinion. But if you have the means, like if you have a trade or something, yeah, go ahead. It is an upgrade, just not a huge noticeable upgrade, in my opinion. Your eyes may see it different, and you may have a different opinion here. Now, other than the TVL line count on these monitors, I don't know if this has any other advantages over the 600 line monitors. I don't know if the tube in these monitors are inherently better in a sense that, like, I don't know if they use better phosphors or things like that. The only advantage I know of is just a higher line count. So there may be other things that make this image better that I don't know. Again, I'm not like a complete super videophile or an expert on PVMs or anything. So if anyone knows in the comments, let us know if these 800 line monitors have anything other than a higher line count that makes them better. Now the 20MDU did have one advantage that I can think of over this monitor. So one advantage my older 20MDU did have over this is it did have an extra connection on the back, and that makes the 20MDU also a pretty desirable PVM. Now it's going to be dark back here, you probably can't see, but you just have basically one connection each. So you have an S-video, I think you have one or two composite, but then you have one RGB / component. So you can either use it for RGB or component, and you get one. On the 20MDU, you actually had two RGB / components. So you could do two RGB or two components, or one RGB and one component. I think it might have required, if you were doing that, it might have required like changing in the service menu from RGB to component. But you could have two systems hooked up here at once. Since I only have one connection now, I have to use, well, rather than connect them from the monitor directly, I have this little BNC to SCART connector right here, and then I can just unconnect my system. So this is going to the PC Engine right here. So if I wanted to switch it, I can just pop this off and put on another SCART without wearing out the BCN connect. Not that the BNC connectors really wear out. I think they're designed for a lot of like constant switching. They're like professional connectors, but I do like this method because if it does wear out, it's just a simple cable that I have to replace. I don't have to replace jacks on a monitor or anything like that. And it does have the audio pass-through. These monitors, like I said, do have a pretty decent little mono speaker right here, but I have hooked up speakers, and that pulls straight from like the SCART cable. Let me turn it on. Let me see if you can hear it here. Yeah, they don't sound too bad. You can always upgrade, or I could always upgrade the speakers if I want, but I don't really find it necessary. These are like just PC speakers, but I think they work just fine. Yeah, I think they work fine. Better than the mono on board anyways. So as far as what systems I have hooked up here, I basically just use this guy for 8-bit systems. So I have my PC Engine here with the, I forget what they call this, the super duper CD-ROM or something. This thing is, it's a little expensive, or at least it was, but this is awesome if you're a PC Engine fan. It does, again, I'm not big on emulation. Obviously, I have the core of the system here, but stuff like, I mean, basically it emulates the CD drive for the Super CD add-on, which is prone to failure. Mechanical CD drives tend to be, but this is kind of like you could put your ROMs in here. So, and it runs ROMs for like CD ISOs. So it's basically like a flash cart attachment, flash cart slash sort of CD-ROM emulator on there. So it's pretty cool. Here is my AV Famicom. This has been RGB modded. I have the disk system here, but this is just for show. There's actually nothing in there. I think it's just a shell, but I like the way it looks. Of course, I have the EverDrive for the Famicom, RGB modded. And then down here, you can't see it well, but I have my Sega Master System down there. And then connected, and these are all set up for RGB. So I just have to switch that SCART. And then here I have a another PS2 Slim, because why not? And I just have this connected via S-Video. And this is if I want to play any like old school like SNES, NES, the type like 16-bit compilations on the PS2. I can play them on the PVM. Although my real PS2 or PlayStation 2 gaming is on the old KV310 over there, 32-inch I think. So yeah, that's where I do the bulk. I'll show you this guy here. We don't look at my console setup a lot on this channel. This is mostly a computer channel. We cover monitors and stuff sometimes, but just a quick my setup. PS2 Slim, of course. Then I have these Pelican system selectors are awesome because they have so many connectors on here, like eight I think, that you can switch through, and they're pretty reliable. They work pretty well. Someone in the comments that's a big, video file might be like, they bring too much interference or something like that. I like them. I think they work great. My JVC VCR, SVHS. This thing I found for like $2. It's some kind of pure AV. This is kind of like a, I don't know, it tells me the voltage coming in, and I think it works as like a surge protector, and it cleans the voltage up to make the picture, like create a little bit less interference, I guess. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to keep this in the setup. It's been there for like a year or so. I can't open that. But it's kind of neat. You plug things into it and it protects them, I guess. This is my Yamaha Laserdisc player. This guy gets a lot of use. This does all the fancy stuff. Let's see, down here, this is just my audio receiver. It's a Denon. I basically use this receiver because its vintage matches basically with Laserdisc players, and it has a built-in AC3 sound for the Laserdiscs, even though it's useless because I don't have surround sound set up. That's not my purse, by the way. I simply have 3 monitors here. So I have a 3.0 setup for sound. So the AC3 is like pointless. Down here, Sega Saturn, PS1, that is modded. It can play Japanese games. Well, actually, it's more than, it has no disk drive here. It has the SD card. Same with the Saturn, actually. The Saturn's all pimped out. SD card. It has the battery replaced inside of it, where it holds saves. It's like non-volatile memory. Anyways, Xbox, N64, and then down to the very bottom we have a dusty Sega Genesis with the CD-ROM attachment, and then another PS2. This is a fat PS2 with the hard drive. I alternate between these two. If I'm playing off a disc, I'll play that one. If I'm doing the hard drive, I'll do that one. Although the drives work in both of them, a division of labor to cut down on wear and tear. And I almost forgot my little SNES here, one of my favorite consoles of all time, tucked in here. This is the junior model right here. This has been RGB modded, so most of these are running component. This isn't an RGB monitor, and I haven't modded it for RGB, but it does do component. This is a great consumer set. The KV, I think it's FV310. Sometimes I get mixed up on the numbers and letters there, but I think that's it. Great consumer model, one of the best consumer SD televisions. I have most of these running on some kind of what is it, HD Retrovision component cable. So the Super Nintendo's component, the Genesis's component, and so is the Saturn and the PlayStation and PlayStation 2s and all that. And then just a fraction of my games here. So anyways, back to this beautiful monitor. I'm not sure what else I have to say about it. I am happy with the trade. I do really like this monitor, and I think it looks really fantastic. I just say again, if you already have a PVM that might be a lesser model that's only like 600 TVL line count, I wouldn't spend $6 or $7 or $100 upgrading if you come across one. Now, if you have the money and you're really into this stuff like me, sure. But if you're just an average gamer, I don't think you're going to notice like a massive difference. Like, I would say, yes, you will definitely notice a big difference between, say, an average consumer CRT and then you upgrade to a PVM. Even like a 600 line PVM, you'll definitely notice a difference. But I think going from the 600 line PVM to something like this with 800 lines, you're not going to notice as big as a difference, at least in my opinion. Some of you in the comments might think I'm nuts, but I don't know. I didn't notice a huge difference. Definitely noticed it's sharper, but I would say the extra sharpness is worth $600, $500. Unless you've got a lot of money to throw around and that's pocket change to you. But anyways, yeah, that is a quick look at my Sony PVM-M4U. This one, I believe, is from the year 2000. I've seen some that are a little bit earlier. I think my 20M2 MDU is from 2001, so they're pretty contemporary. There is a cap kit for this available. Their service manuals are widely available. That's another thing with this monitor. It should be pretty easy to like recap and repair, theoretically, at least opposed to the Ikegami monitor. So yeah, that's about it for this guy. Thanks for watching. I hope you guys had a good holiday and a good new year, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you again for watching.